Moving on, our main story tonight concerns healthcare, the field responsible for repairing organs, treating cancer, and removing foreign objects from rectums, which have recently included a plastic turtle, a fork, 6 magic markers, and a cat toy bell, which, credit where it's due, is the most promising advancement in cat hiding places since under the dresser. Access to healthcare is a big problem in America, and one of the key reasons is that health insurance is often linked to employment. Why is that the case? Well, because we do it wrong. There is a right way to do it, but we don't do it that way. We do it the wrong way. And this is a particular problem at the moment because employment is still down 7.6 million jobs from its pre-pandemic level, all of which means that many are struggling to find healthcare coverage right now. So they might be intrigued if they stumble on an ad like this.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share.
It's freedom from insurance.
At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down.
We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
Well, hold on, because I'm not sure how together you all are. What I saw there was a bunch of people together with warm lens flares and then one weird older man very much on his own in black and white. He's in a slightly different thing, and we're not going to say why, but on some level, I think we all know. That ad is for something called a healthcare sharing ministry. And if you haven't heard of them before, you may have come across one and not even realized it, because they have been growing fast in the US. And the key phrase in that ad is freedom from insurance. Because the most important thing to know about healthcare sharing ministries, or HCSMs, isn't just that they can be cheaper than health insurance, which they can, is that they are also not health insurance. Generally, they are non-profits where people who share religious beliefs, usually Christianity, agree to help cover each other's medical bills. Here is a heartwarming story about what one of them looks like in practice.
We're praying for a young lady named Kimberly.
Bob Stedman and his family are praying for someone they've never met.
She had a shunt installed in her brain.
They've also prepared a card with a check for $561.
To bear her burden by sending them some money.
A scene like this plays out here once a month.
It does take a measure of faith to do it. We are sharing. This is so different than what we're used to in our society.
He's right. People actually looking out for each other does sound better than our current system, which is get sick, have insurance decline coverage, and then hope Deborah Messing retweets your GoFundMe. That's great, Deborah, but did you donate? Did you? Did you, Deborah? And it does feel more personal sending $500 a month to a stranger in need than to a company that sounds like someone made up a word after getting a shitty Scrabble hand. Perhaps that is why the local news team who covered that story seemed so moved after it ended.
I mean, can you imagine being that person and getting the check in the mail, not knowing that someone was going to help you, and then suddenly you have all this help?
Right. It's all about faith, isn't it? Faith that it's going to get paid, faith in God, and it's just amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah, of course they're into this shit. Faith, strangers, coming together, throw in a runaway dog who found his owner in the hospital even though he'd never been to the hospital, and you've got yourself a Schedule 1 local news thirst trap. And HCSMs are definitely an alternative, but as you've probably guessed because you're learning about them on this show and not what if John Oliver was somehow less angry, less English, and had Jack Ryan money, there are also some significant drawbacks which, depending on the company in question, can range from the disquieting to the disqualifying. So tonight, let's talk about healthcare sharing ministries, what they are, what they do, and more importantly, what they don't do. And the first thing to know is HCSMs have actually existed in the United States for decades, traditionally serving small, insular communities like Mennonites and the Amish. However, the 2010 Affordable Care Act included a loophole that exempted uninsured people from paying the tax penalty if they were a member of an HCSM, and that was clearly immediately appealing to anyone who wanted to opt out of Obamacare. In fact, some HCSMs, like Liberty HealthShare, one of the biggest ministries, have specifically targeted a conservative audience. Liberty has run ads on The Blaze and also sponsored CPAC. In fact, remember that famous moment when Trump molested the flag? The Liberty logo was an eyewitness to that crime. And Liberty even made its sales pitch directly to the CPAC audience during panels like this one.
If you want the government to take care of you and you think they do a great job doing it, health sharing is not for you. If you want to stick it to them sign up for Liberty Health Share.
Okay, on a list of the worst sounds known to man, self-satisfied CPAC laughter has to be right at the top, beaten only by weeping kitten and mother's orgasm. Now, that Affordable Care Act loophole did try to put some limits in place to keep things from getting out of hand. It stated that your ministry, or crucially, a predecessor of it, had to have been in continuous existence since 1999. But unfortunately, that predecessor detail left room for exploitation because new ministries simply started affiliating themselves with previously existing churches. Take one called Trinity HealthShare. It was founded in 2018, which is, and this is true, after 1999. But it argued that it still qualified because it derived its existence from the Baptist Church, which has been in existence and continually sharing since the 1600s, which is obvious bullshit. It's like me claiming that this show has been around for 13 billion years because the Big Bang was also a bright expanse containing extremely dense material. That's just not how anything works. So a loophole that was intended to be small got pretty big and even bigger once Obamacare's individual mandate stopped being enforced during the Trump years. And the result of all of this was that the popularity of these ministries exploded from an estimated 200,000 members a decade ago to more than 1 million today. And while HCSMs will insist that they make it abundantly clear that they are not health insurance, many do seem to go out of their way to make themselves appear as insurance-like as possible. For a start, they're sometimes sold through insurance brokers alongside actual insurance plans. And while the Obamacare marketplace offers plans in 4 metal categories, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, a company called Altrua offered plans in gold, silver, bronze, and copper, rebranding them last year to diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby, although it is still pretty clear what they're trying to do there, very much blur the line, while also throwing some extremely unfair shade at Ruby, the objective goat of the cardinal gems. She's red, known for her flaws, and responsible for the most iconic slippers in the history of cinema. Eat your fucking hearts out, Sapphire and Emerald, because you could literally never. But while these HCSMs may have the optics of insurance, there are some very important differences. For a start, they don't have to abide by laws governing insurance products, meaning there is nothing stopping them from placing restrictions on coverage for pre-existing conditions, which is exactly what they do. And not only that, many won't cover services considered essential under the ACA, like treatment for substance abuse or mental health care. In fact, Altrua excludes those and also treatment for obesity or autism. And Samaritan's Classic plan has a list of non-qualified items, including routine, maintenance, stabilized, preventive, and wellness care. That is everything from regular checkups to vaccinations. And even for eligible expenses, the most that can be shared for a given need is $250,000, which probably explains their full name. Samaritan, not the good one though, just a random Samaritan who might well leave you to die in the middle of an abandoned road. And we haven't even gotten to one of the biggest excuses HCSMs can use to deny coverage, and that is morality. Because that means that you can be denied coverage for basically anything.
This is a program of the Christian Care Ministry, and people who smoke or same-sex couples need not apply. The program also won't pay for illnesses related to alcohol, abortion, or other lifestyle-related choices.
I need to know that I'm not going to be paying for someone else who's decided to sit on the couch and eat bonbons all day.
Wow, that is harsh. But I will say that judgmental tone is very much in line with how these ministries operate. Do people really deserve healthcare coverage if they eat junk food or don't exercise or are gay? Just fix it. Eat a carrot. Go for a run. Rub your penis or vagina on someone else's vagina or penis respectively. It's really not difficult. And this is a pattern across HCSMs. Liberty's materials say an applicant must comply with a Christian lifestyle. And among the exclusions on Samaritan's Classic program, you'll find that they might pay for treatment for an STD, but not if it was contracted by sex outside of marriage, and that the member has to explain how the disease was contracted. Presumably, the hotter the story, the more money you get for ointments. Vanilla missionary shit isn't going to get covered here, bud. You better have gotten gonorrhea from an earlobe if you want Samaritan's attention. But sweeping moral judgment isn't the only leeway that these organisations have. Because they are voluntary associations, you have no guarantee that your bills will get paid. Although, to hear a founder of Liberty HealthShare tell it, you've really got nothing to worry about there. Just listen to him reassure people in a video on their website titled, "Will My Bills Be Paid?"
We've had a successful history of sharing medical bills 100% for every eligible need ever submitted. So it doesn't depend upon a written contract where we can sue each other if someone doesn't send their share amount. It's really a contract written on our hearts.
Oh, right. It's a contract written on your hearts. Figuratively, of course, because literally, it's not a contract. And as for his claim there that Liberty successfully shared 100% of medical bills for every eligible need, given, as we've discussed, they can deem any need ineligible for any reason, that phrase is essentially as meaningless as their cardiac non-contract. And on top of all of this, there is the practical matter of how exactly you pay for your care as a member. The HCSM process typically is you're told to present yourself as uninsured, then when you get your bill, the expectation is that you bargain down the cost of your care as much as you can, then pay the bill yourself, then submit your bills to the ministry for reimbursement. And if you have ever waited for your friends to Venmo you after paying for dinner, you know that the reimbursement process can go very wrong. Participants in Liberty, you know, the one with the heart contract, have found payments can be slow to non-existent.
In the past 3 years, Tiffany Schultz with the Wisconsin Better Business Bureau says the BBB has taken more than 500 complaints about Liberty HealthShare, many with similar stories, one claiming $90,000 in outstanding medical bills that were pre-approved.
Either the consumer is out the money and hasn't been reimbursed, or they're ending up going to collections.
That's not great. And while Liberty claims that 2019 was a particularly difficult year and that they are proud of the improvements they've made since then, it is worth noting that Liberty's members still seem pretty active on the Better Business Bureau website, where they've logged 304 complaints in the last 12 months, which is a lot, especially when you consider that Cigna, a massive insurer, has just half that amount while having 15 times the members. And imagine having more people complain about you than about Cigna, a company whose logo is a cartoon man standing in a field as his head explodes from dealing with their customer service. And unfortunately, in most states, a complaint to the Better Business Bureau is basically all the recourse you have. And these ministries have worked very hard to keep accountability at bay, successfully lobbying for so-called safe harbor laws in more than 30 states, ensuring that they can operate safely outside of insurance regulations. And to see just how much you can get away with, it's worth looking at a company called Alira, which has been heavily involved with a number of health-sharing ministries over the years. First, one called Unity, then one called Trinity, which now goes by Sharity. Although those names sound less like healthcare organisations and more like characters in a religious-themed Captain Planet knockoff. When their powers combine, they get cancelled after 2 episodes. Alira presents itself as merely an administrator for HCSMs, but it is intricately connected to the ones that it works with, and very much by design. Just 6 weeks after Trinity was incorporated, it signed a deal with Alira, stipulating that Alira would have exclusive ownership rights to the membership roster and was the sole party developing and marketing the plans, including the HCSM component. So Alira's relationship with Trinity is basically this guy's relationship to his alien costume. He can claim he isn't technically the costume, and that's true, but the costume doesn't really do anything without him. And customers in multiple states have claimed that Alira and its ministries have been ruthless in denying coverage, wielding morality clauses hard. When one member was attacked and knocked unconscious outside a bar and taken to the hospital with serious injuries, including a skull fracture, cervical spine fracture, and intracranial bleeding, Alira denied her claims, stating her injuries were self-inflicted and citing their guidelines, including the line, "Follow spiritual teachings on the use or abuse of alcohol," which I'm pretty sure is the benevolent advice Jesus himself would have given under the circumstances. And incredibly, that's not even the worst story of a rejected claim involving Alira.
10-year-old Lola Grace Seegers is healthy just 4 months after brain surgery. On September 11th, she was rushed from the local ER in Greene County by ambulance to Children's Healthcare Scottish Rite, where doctors removed a softball-sized brain tumor.
It was just amazing, the care.
But last week came the bill from their health plan, Alira Companies.
$325,624.
Alara says Children's is out of network and won't pay the $325,000 bill.
We had a life-threatening emergency. They failed us and her.
Holy shit! They were denied reimbursement for a child who had a softball-sized tumour removed from her brain, which is incidentally exactly the kind of immoral behaviour I'd expect sharing ministries to classify as fucking disqualifying. Now, Alira claims that that family's issues were ultimately resolved, but only after that story was featured on the news. And it shows just how little recourse you have, that if you don't have a child that you can get onto TV to shame the company into action, you could be shit out of luck. And look, traditional insurance companies also have their share of horror stories when it comes to denial of coverage, but there are important differences here. Not just in the level of protection that you have when that happens, but in the degree of financial accountability. Because while the ACA requires actual health insurers to spend no more than 20% of money on administrative costs, therefore leaving at least 80% for care, there is no such requirement for HCSMs. And you can probably tell where this is going. Because investigations have found that out of every $100 a Trinity member paid in premiums, only $16 went towards paying medical expenses, with the rest being kicked up to Alira. And paying out 16% of the money that you take in for coverage is a lot different than paying out 80%, because 80% makes you think, wait, why exactly do we have insurance companies? Whereas 16% makes you think, is a crime happening to me right now? And if so, why does everyone seem okay with it? And when a local news reporter caught up with the head of Alira to ask her about its reluctance to pay out claims, her response was not particularly reassuring.
Do you have any apologies to the members who believe their claims ought to be paid and they're not paid?
We're not a healthcare sharing ministry, Mr. Strickland. We only administer on behalf of the ministries. I can't help you any further. I need to get out of town.
Okay, it is never a good sign when a CEO has to end an interview like that. As I've said before, our company has never done anything illegal. Now, have you seen a man in a blue fedora? He's supposed to give me a new identity as I get pulled into a helicopter that's already taking off. Tell my daughter I loved her and my husband I didn't. I'm out! Now, I should say, other sharing ministries have tried to distance themselves from Alira, claiming that this sort of deception is not part of legitimate, authentic healthcare sharing ministries. And Alira is definitely bad. But one thing insurance commissioners have repeatedly told us in researching this piece is how little transparency there is into how these ministries operate and just how wary they think people should be of all of them. And look, broadly, we have to do more in this country to reduce the cost of healthcare. Personally, I'd argue switching to a single payer system would remove a lot of these problems instantly, but that clearly isn't happening anytime soon. So, in the meantime, I do get the appeal of lower cost health insurance. The problem is, this isn't that. It's not insurance at all. And states need, at the very least, to pass laws to make sure that people know what they're getting into with HCSMs and to force them to allocate funds properly. The problem is, some are going in the opposite direction. Take Florida. In 2018, after intense lobbying, it loosened its restrictions on HCSMs even further, going from requiring that participants be members of the same religion to merely requiring that they share a common set of ethical or religious beliefs. And that could be basically anything. At this point, the bar to entry is so low, just about anyone can become an HCSM. And the reason I know that is, this anyone did. You may remember, back in 2015, we founded a church, Our Lady of Perpetual Exemption, to demonstrate that tax exemptions for churches enabled some of them to do terrible things. Well, just 3 months ago, we officially founded a spin-off church called Our Lady of Perpetual Health, and we founded it, where else but Florida. And I'm happy to tell you that church now has its own healthcare sharing ministry, Johnny Care, and the whole thing was scarily easy to do. So, without further ado, please join me, my most blessed congregants, at church. And you know, I couldn't run an organisation as important as this ministry all by myself, so please welcome, live from Johnny Care headquarters in sunny Florida, the Felicity Huffman to my William H. Macy, my dear wife and business partner, Wanda Joe. Praise be to you, my Wanda.
Praise be to you, my John, and praise be to Florida, that blessed state where minimally regulated insurance knockoffs go to be born and retired people go to die.
Amen to that.
I have heard the word of the Lord, Majan.
Ooh, and what did it say, Mawanda?
It said, thou must free thyself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, from the overreaching grasp of government health care. Stick it to him.
Stick it to him. Now, Wanda, we're running the ministry as a church, even though in Florida, we actually don't have to be.
Amen. Praise Florida.
But we do need to fulfill the requirement that our ministry provide for the financial or medical needs of a participant through contributions from other participants. And the good news is, we have done that through our special Johnny Care First Aid Kit containing not one, not two, but 3 Band-Aids. It screams the cheapest option that we could find. And you know what, Mawanda?
What, Majan?
It was.
Now, why 3 Band-Aids? Because we know that in life sometimes accidents happen. But if they happen more than 3 times, it just stops being our problem.
And let me be clear, when you sign up for membership, you're not paying for your own first aid kit. You're paying for someone else's, and they are paying for yours.
And that gives you freedom from insurance, and us freedom from responsibility.
And beyond that, it's a very simple system. If you need medical care, you go to the doctor, you receive it, you request a bill, and then you pay that bill on your own.
Leave us out of it.
Oh yeah, because if you submit that bill to us, we're gonna reject it.
From his lips to God's bigger lips in the sky.
Testify. Either because you engaged in the sin of fornication beyond the bonds of matrimony,
You whoring little skis.
or you spent the day eating bonbons on the couch instead of going to the gym.
Or masturbated ever.
Whatever it is, we're going to reject it. And it's as easy as that. No deductibles, no claims, and no contracts, except for the one written on our hearts. Now, you can become a member of our Johnny Care ministry for just $1.99, and we're limiting membership to 5,000 of you in Florida, not because we have to, but because that is the number of first aid kits that we've bought. So go to freedomfromhealthcare.org and see if you qualify to send us money and get almost nothing in return.
As close to nothing as we could get away with.
And to be clear, we should not be able to get away with any of this. Thank you to Wanda Joe, who, if history is any indication, will disappear for 3 years and ultimately resurface in a Canadian Mohegan sun, answering to Deb. I just love you so much, Mawanda.
Oh, and I love you so much, Majan.
Visit freedomfromhealthcare.org to learn how you can stick it to 'em.
Stick it to him.
That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.